Hey guys, welcome back to the Becoming TV series where we explore the deep truths and the principles that will enable you become everything you were created to be, to do, and have. Once again, my name is William Awana. So let's talk about the mastery mandate. What is a mandate? A mandate is like a seal of authority, a commission that you've been given to do, an instruction that you're asked to carry out, which you had better carry out, right? Especially if the instruction comes from a much higher power, a much higher authority. And of course, mastery is the ability or the capacity to fully or to have full knowledge, right, and understanding of a concept or a thing through which you can now apply the necessary wisdom, right, in order to gain complete authority or complete charge over the thing. When you master a subject, it means that you know it in and out. When you master a discipline, right, it means that you're fully in charge of that thing. It can't influence you, rather, you influence it, right? So when you put those two words together, mastery and mandate, it means that you have an instruction, or rather, the two words mean that there's an instruction for you to be in charge of something, right? And what is that something? And who gave you the instruction? So let's dial it back all the way to the beginning. I've talked to you about the creation story several times on this channel, right? So it's something you're probably much more familiar with if you weren't before. And essentially, my view, which is taken from the biblical perspective, is that it is God who is the creator of all things, and we are part of His creation. In fact, we're the zenith of His creation. And if you look through the creation story, when it came time to create man, uh, we're made in His image, and then at the end of it, we're given an instruction or a set of instructions, and that essentially is what the mastery mandate is all about, right? So if you look through the creation story, specifically the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 28, you would see that God, as the creator, after He made man, He gave him his creation, the first man and the first woman, four sets of instructions. He asked them to do four things, right? Now, but prior to that, when He was creating man, He stated the purpose. And remember that I said that purpose is the reason for a thing, right? It's always essential for you to start by understanding the purpose of something. Dr. Miles Monroe, late Dr. Miles Monroe, said it very beautifully. He said, and this is something that is so popular, especially with motivational speakers, etc., that when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. And that's so true. If you don't know the purpose for a thing, if you don't know the reason for a thing, it's inevitable that you will abuse it. Why? Because you don't know the purpose for the thing. So you would only assume, right, that you have an understanding of what it's meant to be used for. And even if you're somewhere in the region of the truth, if you don't know the whole truth, you would still be underutilizing that thing. So either way, you would be abusing that thing, right? So it's always essential for you to understand the purpose of a thing if you're going to use it fully or apply it fully, right? So the purpose for the creation of man was this, and you find it in Genesis 1, verse 26. He said, so that they might have dominion. Dominion. And that word dominion is a loaded word, right? And it's contextually, it means many things, which you can apply both in the fields of leadership and in the business context. But let's stick with what I just said about the dominion mandate, right? Or the mastery mandate. He said, have dominion. Dominion means being in charge of something or a place, being able to dominate a situation, being able to dominate um, whatever it is around you, your environment, right? Being able to be in charge, in full charge of something that has been given to you, right? And what did He ask you to dominate? He asked you to dominate the world around you, right? The animals, the resources of the earth. Essentially, that is what He was talking about. Dominate everything. Everything has been put under your care for you to dominate, for you to be in charge over, right? So that's the mandate, and that also contains, the mastery bit. for you to dominate something, you must be the master of it, right? So mastery mandate. So how do you dominate? Which is where I'm leading to. Because one thing about God is that when he gives an instruction, he also gives you the strategy, right? The how. He gives you the vision or the purpose. He also gives you the how. He gives you the why. He gives you the how as well. So further down in verse 28, he now gives us the how of how to dominate. He said four things. Number one, he said, be fruitful. Be fruitful, right? Number two, he said, multiply. Yeah. Number three, he said, replenish. And number four, he said, dominate. Right. Now, those four things you can apply to virtually everything, um, conceptually, in leadership and in business, because those two things are really the essence of why man was created. You were created to be a leader, and you were created to have some form of business in some form or the other, right? Whether it's through a service that you're providing, or whether it's through a product that you're providing. Essentially, you're solving a problem, right? And that is what entrepreneurship is really all about, when you solve a problem. But let's get back to the mastery mandate, or the four sets of instructions. Here we go again. Be fruitful, right? Multiply, replenish, and then dominate. Now, of course, when you're reading the Bible, you also have to be careful. First of all, not to take things out of context, but also to remember or understand that there's always the literal thing that you're looking at, right? The literal application. And there's also the underlying application, the deeper context, um, which verse or the passage is alluding to. So on the face of it, if you look at it, but the first assumption is to assume, or the first assumption is to think that God is referring to the for the man and the woman to procreate, right? To release offspring, who would also grow and continue the mandate of dominating the earth. So that's one way of looking at it, because it's actually true, right? God wanted something specific done, and he wanted it to be achieved through human beings. And of course, human beings will only multiply, right, when they go through a certain process, which you all know, and children come forth, etc. Right? So that's one way of looking at it. For human beings to multiply or to proliferate, you must go through the process of being fruitful, the woman getting pregnant and all of that through via the man, multiplying, getting more and more children to also go through the reproductive process, and then replenishing the earth, continuing to spread and spread and spread, and then after a while, putting the earth under your control, under your domineering authority, if you want to put it that way, being in charge of the earth. However, I said that there's another way of looking at it, the deeper context. And the deeper context for me is this, right? Fruitfulness goes beyond just having children. It means being productive. Now, when you look at it that way, you get to understand that this is a much more deeper context. So, why did he say fruitfulness? So, if you're talking to an inventor or a manufacturer or anybody who creates something, there's usually a word or a phrase that sometimes they would use. This is the fruit of my efforts, right? Or this is my brainchild, right? This is something that I developed. This is something I brought to the world, out of what I have inside me, out of whatever gift or talent or skills that I've acquired, right? So I have brought it forth. I have been fruitful. So this is actually the context, the deeper context through which you should look at that particular instruction. Being fruitful means that you should produce something based out of what you already have internally. And we need to break that down a bit further. So notice the application, or notice the instruction. He said, be fruitful. He did not say be seedful. Yeah. Why did he say be fruitful? Because that presumes already, for you to be fruitful presumes that there's already seed somewhere. because you can't be fruitful without having seed. So if you look at the process of a fruit bearing tree, it starts with the seed, right? Eventually grows, and then it starts to bring out leaves and branches and all of that, and then starts to produce fruit. But it starts essentially from the seed form. So fruit, um, after the process, only comes forth after there's already a seed planted. So the instruction of fruitfulness is based on the presumption or the knowledge that you already have a seed. So what is that seed? That's where we're going to. Everybody has a seed, and that is your seed of value, your seed of gifting, your seed of your natural talents, which you're supposed to harness and bring forth for other people to leverage, right? That is the essence of why we're created. We're created to be interdependent, meaning that one person has something that another person needs. I have what you need in terms of being able to expose you to deep truths and insights based on the my natural gifts of teaching, my ability to expound knowledge and to break it down into simple context through which you can understand, right? And also through my skills of teaching people about business, building businesses, strategy, management, and all of that, right? So through all of those things, my natural inclinations, my natural giftings, those are my seeds, right? And from those seeds, I'm expected to bear fruit. What is the fruit? Being able to reach out through the Become TV series, training people, coaching people, preparing documentation, preparing business plans, and all of that, leading people, teaching people, exposing them to higher truths, helping them to understand that they have so much potential that they're currently assuming about themselves, right? So those things are fruits. Everybody has a seed, whether it's singing, your natural inclination of being able to talk to people, um, having a creative eye, right? Being talented at drawing or sketching or sculpting, having a scientific bent to you, or having a mathematical brain, right? Ability to assess and analyze that just comes naturally. Those things are seeds. Those things are seeds. And from those seeds, you're expected to produce fruit, right? Whatever you have, your natural inclinations, the things you're able to do easily that other people just look at you and wonder, with their mouths agape, right? Those are your seeds. Those things are not meant to be dormant. You're not supposed to keep them. You're not supposed to just hide them. Whatever you have is a seed that is supposed to bear fruit eventually. It means that you must first of all identify what that seed is and take it through the process, cultivate the seed, make it go into a tree and make it bear fruit, right? So that's the first step. Be fruitful. But it doesn't stop there. After you've identified your seed and you've taken it through the process of growing and development and you're bearing fruit, you can't just bear one fruit. So let's take an example. One of the things that I do that I'm naturally gifted at is writing, right? So I'm also an author. For those of you who know about my book, Entrepreneur First Class, that was my first book that I released way back in 2020, talking to entrepreneurs about building businesses, etc. Right? So that was my book, my product, my fruit, right? Based off the seed of writing. But if I'm supposed to dominate, I can't just produce one book, right? Because the only person who would purchase that book, um, that would be the person with the only copy, right? So if I'm supposed to be dominating in the field of business or entrepreneurship, right, or at the basic level or the startup level, I need to produce much more books. In other words, I need to multiply the fruit, right? I can't stop at the level of one fruit. It's not gonna make things happen. It's not going to allow me to dominate. The only thing I'm going to dominate is the space around one person, right? Um, and that's about it. So in order for me to reach much more people, many more people rather, I need to produce more fruit. I need to multiply or reproduce the fruits that I already have, right? So from one book, I need to reproduce copies of the book so that it reaches 500, 1,000, 10,000. It makes the New York bestseller list, right, etc. So is able to proliferate. It reaches much more people, right? So that is multiply, multiply. That's the second step, but it doesn't stop there. You can be fruitful, you can be productive, you can also multiply or reproduce your fruit, but it still won't give you dominion. So what's the third step? The third step is replenish. Replenish means that you need to have a distribution strategy, right, for sending your fruit out. So again, using that analogy of the book, a single book is the fruit, 10,000 copies is the multiplied effort of that fruit. But if I just have 10,000 copies, uh, if I put it under my bed, it doesn't do me any good, right? So I need to find a way of distributing those 10,000 copies into the markets I want to serve, the startup market, the businesses in growth mode market, the established businesses, etc., etc., entrepreneurs, new and aspiring. I need to find the people in the markets I'm choosing to serve and get that product into their hands. That is distribution. So distribution means that you need to set up a system, an effective system that's going to allow you to reach your target, right? So if I want to sell 10,000 copies of my book, I need to set up an effective distribution model or distribution system that would allow me to effectively reach the people that I need to reach, right? So once you've crossed that stage, then you enter into the dominion stage, the subduing stage. That was actually the word that was used. Subdue means that you bring that market under your control. How do you know when you're subduing? Being top of mind, essentially. That's how you know you're subduing. If you're operating in the market and people want something in that market, the first or the top tier of the people who are operating in that market, you should be one of them, right? You should be in the top percentile. That is how you know that you're dominating. That is how you know that you're subduing the market. When people think of a product and they think of you, right? Um, you're thinking of a great speaker and you like the teaching priest, William Moana. I'm subduing, right? Because my name springs to your mind. So even if I had the gift of teaching and the gift of speaking and the gift of espousing knowledge, but you didn't know who I was, then I haven't subdued. So I need to get to that level of producing fruit, multiplying the fruit, distributing the fruit, and making it entrenched in that market such that I'm able to subdue. So those four steps are what actually leads you to having dominion, right? You get it. So your mandate to become a master on the earth is based off those four things. Whatever you are given to do, you're supposed to achieve mastery in it. And the way to achieve mastery is to go through those four steps. That is how you become a dominant force, whether it's in the world of business, in the world of leadership, in whatever world it is, the music world, entertainment, sports, whatever it is. Once you have gone through those four steps, that is when you are a master, right? So I hope this video helped. It's a bit long, but it really required me to break it down into those basic elements so you get to understand how to become a master of whatever game you're playing. All right, take care.